Jen Evers with Quality Crafts, and recently I did a Spectrum Noir coloring video that I shared, and I got a question about whether or not Stampin' Up! Markers would do the same thing. And I was curious too, so I pulled out some Spectrum Noirs and some Stampin' Up! Write markers and some Bic Market writers. Okay, so that's what I used. I labeled everything so that you could see them. And here are 3 of the things that I've done in several different colors of each kind, and this has been sitting a while so you can see how it blended. Okay, so this one is Summer Sun and More Mustard on one side, and Pretty in Pink and Positively Pink on the other side. And you can see these are Stampin' Up! Markers. And you can see how some of it blended and some of it didn't. You can still kind of see some lines, but it did remarkably well. A lot better than I thought. These are not alcohol-based markers, but water-based. Now this was done with Ocean View Blue and Blue Skies Blue on this side. And on this side, Twinkle, Teal, and Hot Aqua with Bic Markets. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. So this is a Bic Market. These are the colors that I used. Okay. Bic Markets, I've found, don't have colors or enough colors to make 2 that are really close together. This is the set I have. Okay, so I even have 36 of them. I know there's one set larger, I believe. But the colors aren't close enough to do some really, really good color matches. Those were the 2 that I found that were, you know, pretty closely related. The third one that I did was with LV1 and LV2, TB2 and TB3, and these were Spectrum Noirs. So that was these. Okay, and those did some nice blending as well as the Bic Markets. However, they blended a little bit more thoroughly, I think, than the Bic Markets did. Let's see if I can get all 3 of them in there. So as far as looking down on them and checking them all out at the same time, they look relatively similar. And this is on a small image. Okay, so for those who want to see it in action, because that changes sometimes the difference of it, I'm going to do the same colors I did here on this side so you can see how it goes. So first I did on this one was Summer Sun. I colored the whole thing right in, completely in with Summer Sun. Then I used the More Mustard to fill in the highlights. I didn't do anything real professional, I just stuck to a few highlights and that's it. And while it was still wet, I went and grabbed the lighter color, the Summer Sun, and went right over the top of the whole thing again. Okay, that's how I got that to blend. Not bad. Not bad for Stampin' Up! For water-based markers in a small area. Okay? The other 2 I did on that side were these 2 pinks. So I first laid down Pretty in Pink. Okay, and while that was still wet, went ahead and did some highlighting with this other darker pink, which is Positively Pink. And then went right back in with Pretty in Pink. You can see what a stark difference that is compared to the one that sat and blended in together. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Let's do the next Bic Markets. Bic Market on this side was Twinkle, Teal, and Hot Aqua. So the Twinkle Teal went on first. And then I added in the Hot Aqua for the highlighting. You could definitely tell from this, sorry I didn't turn off the sound on my computer, but you can definitely tell that Bic Markets are, the colors are so much further apart than the other ones. That while it still blends in somewhat, it's a pretty stark difference. But there's the difference between that one that's wet right now and that side. And so let's try the blues. You've got Ocean View Blue, which is this lighter color blue. And then this Blue Skies Blue, which was a much darker blue. Again, very contrasting colors when it comes to Bic markets. They're not really close. But they are alcohol based, so when you mix them together, they do blend pretty nicely, I think. But now look at the difference between how stark that is and this side that had a chance to dry. Those are the same colors. Okay, back up to these. These two are the same colors. These two sides are the same colors on these two sides. So let's slip down to Spectrum Noir. Let's see, the first side I did with the two purples. So LV1 was the lighter shade. So I went ahead and filled in LV1. Add in some highlights of this one. You can see that the difference in this marker especially is that these bleed out quite a bit. And then go back in with the LV1. That was LV1 and LV2. Okay, and that makes them spread out together. But there's the difference between that one dried and that one wet. So they do lighten up quite a bit. Now I'm going to do this side. The reason why I start and restart the camera when I do this is because I can only do so many minutes at a time and I don't want it to shut off. So this is the last one. Oops, let's start with TB2, which is the lighter of the two shades in Spectrum. And then add in some highlights with this darker color, which is the LB3. And then go right back over it again with the LB2. Now this is super simplistic coloring. This is nothing exciting. I just want to show you how they blend together. Okay, so the dry one on this side and the wet one right now on that side. So it will lighten up quite a bit. Now let's try on a little bit bigger of a surface. I put a rather large mark on here. Okay, we're going to try. This one is the Bic Market. Now here's where the difference in the markers is really obvious. Bic Markets, the ones that I've got, only come with this size of a tip. Okay, so when you want to color in something that's relatively large, you're stuck using that small tip to go back and forth and color in the entire thing. What I want to show you is what happens when you go zigzag like this, and you can see the marks that went back and forth in that marker, can't you? Let's leave that and see what happens with it. And we're going to move to the Stampin' Up one. Stampin' Ups are versatile. I really like them because they come with a writing end that's really tiny, and they come with a brush end. Totally love the brush end. I wish that the Spectrum Noirs came that way, but they don't. And so remember, this is a water-based marker. It's not alcohol. So I'm going to do pretty much coloring the same way, back and forth, and then add in a couple of lines. You can see the lines there, but I don't know if it's because these are so juicy or what, but you can definitely see the lines that way. But this side, this back and forth, blended in pretty nicely. The Bic, if we go back to that, you can still see the lines. Now let's try a Spectrum Noir. Let's try this purple one. And I'll do it with the big... These also have two ends, okay? So they've got a little writing end. Kind of like the Bic. Kind of like the Bics, not as small as the Stampin' Up. And then they've got a big chunky end that looks like this, which this is the end that I wish were the brush tips, but they're not. So we're going to just go ahead and go back and forth with this one. Okay, add a couple on the side. You can still see the back and forth motion in those two. and the dark on either side. So if you're looking to see which ones blend out more, it looks as if the Spectrum Noir does, but it might be because of that big, the fatter, whoops, not that end, the fatter nib end that makes that happen. Or the fact that they're juicier or newer, I'm not quite sure. Alright, so what if we go back in and we color back over that with the same color? Are we going to get blending or are we going to get lines? Okay, it starts to blend more the more you color, but you can still definitely see the lines. How about the Stampin' Up brush one? It gets darker and darker, but you don't see the lines as much. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that it's got that nice brush end, but that's my opinion. And then the Spectrum Noir, let's go back over those. They blend a lot more evenly. You can still tell it's a little bit darker on this side, but it blends more towards the middle. So I have to say, out of all of them, Bic Market is my least favorite. Mostly because the colors are so not the same. They're not close enough in color family to blend really well. Stampin' Up does an okay job, even though it's water. You can still see some of the marks. It does an okay job if you're doing a small amount. And the Spectrum Noirs are the ones that bleed out the most, that do the most blending, I think. So now you can kind of pan out and you can kind of see the whole thing all at once. But maybe you've got a different opinion after watching it, and hopefully this will help you pick what kind of marker that you maybe want to buy. Do you want the Bic Markets? Do you want the Spectrum Noirs? Or would you be happy with the Stampin' Ups? Well, thanks for letting me share this today. This is really fun. It might be something you didn't know or something that you already did know, but in a different way. I'm not sure, but I will see you in the next video.